Welcome to Mom to More. I'm your host, Sharon Macey. Join me as I speak with interesting and dynamic women who have reinvented themselves and created their more, using the superpowers and skills they honed as stay-at-home moms. They will share their experiences, struggles, and successes as they return to a former career, pursued a passion or hobby, or charted an entirely new path, giving you the clarity and inspiration to help you answer the question, what do you want to do when your kids grow up? Welcome back to Mom to More. I'm your host, Sharon Macey. Today, my guest is Melani Lust of Melani Lust Photography, and I'm so excited for Melani to share her story with you. So before we begin, hi, Melani. Great to see you. And Melani, tell us a little about yourself, a little intro yourself.
Sure. I live in Westport, Connecticut. I'm from San Diego, and I came to Connecticut via New York. I was a dancer in San Diego, and right after high school, I had the choice of going to study math at Occidental or going to New York to dance. And so I auditioned for the Alvin Ailey company, and while I didn't get in the company, got into the school. And so I danced for a time, a lot of commercial dancing off Broadway. I was in a tap dance company, and then I just decided that show business wasn't for me. So I went back to NYU at age 20, pretty young, and started majoring in math. And then I had an internship in risk assessment and was bored out of my mind and thought, what am I doing? And so then I switched my major to art history, and I ended up getting a BA and an MA in art history at NYU, and working for a brief stint at Sotheby's Art Auction House and in 19th century European painting. And then I got married and had kids and moved to the suburbs.
That's a great story. We're going to delve in more into how you created Melani Lust Photography. So there's a whole backstory, which is super inspiring, and I think a great lesson for for moms who are listening to this, who are sort of looking for their what's next, right? Like, what do I want to do when my kids grow up? And I think you're a wonderful example of that. So let's dig in. I just want to add that you are not just any wedding photographer, but you are someone who people who use you, they wax poetic about the work that you do. And I love, there was a quote that you had on your website, and it said, photographs that look how your memories feel. And I just wanted to put that out there because it's beautiful, and we can go back to that. But first, essential mom question, of course. How many kids do you have? And we know that you raised them in Westport, Connecticut.
Yeah, I have 3. It feels like 10, but one is Terry, a boy, or a man, I guess now. He's 23, and boy-girl twins, also Melanie and Preston.
Fantastic. Do you want to show them? Because I think it's behind your back. There right they there. Are. And that's from a long, long time ago.
That's Terry, Preston, and little Melanie. Yeah.
And that is from a long, long time ago.
Yeah, the twins were 6, and I think Terry was 8.
And I love that. So, all right. So tell me why it was important to you to be home and raise your kids, because you had this fabulous job at Sotheby's, and then, you got married and started having kids. But let's talk about the mom side of it. Like, why was it so important for you to actually be home with your kids, raise your kids?
Well, I loved working at Sotheby's. It was incredible experience. It was like a museum would come in every 3 months and then go out, and then like a new museum would come in. But it's a very social job, and as a single person, it was great because we had to be at the gallery openings. We had to do tons of schmoozing with the clients and, visit them.
What a rough life.
Yeah, try to court their art collections. We're rivals with Christie's, and being surrounded by beauty every day. It was incredible. But I had the 3 kids in Manhattan, and it was just very, very difficult, as any mom knows, in Manhattan, to have 3 kids under 3 in Manhattan. I had like the double stroller, and Terry was riding on the little skateboard on the back, and I couldn't fit into any doorway. And there was always the concern we had to get a nanny to watch the kids with me if we went to the park. It was just a real hassle. And then of course the private schools were so expensive. So we moved out here. I had a friend that lived out here, and I just wanted to be a part of raising them. I nursed them all for over a year, and I just, it's just such a beautiful time. I thought, what, how could I possibly hand this over to someone, when they're all so little, like together. So yeah, I just wanted to be a part in raising them.
Which is so important. And, I always say that being a mom is the toughest job you will ever love.
Yeah.
Because it's arduous. It's just so difficult. And I think as moms, we all sort of, you stick together because everyone's going through the same thing. And it is, it's probably the most important job in the world. I think you would agree with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was really rewarding. It was exhausting. Like, I remember falling asleep on the playground. Like, someone came by and they're like, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, I'm nursing the twins, and
I'm just so tired.
Yeah. So yeah, the job at Sotheby's, it's there's no way you could do it part-time. It's either full-time, you're all in and you're all out. So I
appreciate that. So let's go all the way back to the birth, pun intended, of Melani Lust Photography. And, how did you start thinking that, I need to create a career path that I can be home with my children, raise my children, but yet I can do something so I can make money, which is a very normal and common thing that happens when you're raising kids.
Yeah, well, of course, being a doting mom, I guess I could say, I love taking pictures of my kids. And then my friends started asking me to take pictures of their kids. And so it just kind of snowballed like that. And, for my master's degree in art history, we had to learn, it was part of our degree that we had to learn how to photograph sculpture and painting, because at the time, no internet. we had like all of these works.
I think right now we call that back in the day.
Back in the day. Okay, I'm really aging myself. All of the artworks were in basements. And so for our presentations for slide film and for, we had to photograph these objects, and we had to process them in our paper theses and, hand each one to the 3 professors with the slideshow. And the works had to be very finely detailed and color true, because, at that level, you're talking about like a square inch of a painting and how it's different from the other square inch, and like the paint flakes and there's underpinning and all of these things. So they sent us at NYU, their photography department wasn't that good at the time. So they sent us to Parsons to learn to work in the dark room, learn how to light objects, learn how to create form and, develop film. And it was so much fun. So I thought, this is something I can do part-time. I could have a couple shoots here and there. So I went back to, when the kids were in preschool, then I went back to the International Center of Photography, which I actually had a friend that was teaching there. He's this big Vanity Fair photographer. So I'm like, I'm going to take his class. And we just reviewed, lighting, digital cameras, like all of that stuff. And I just brought that knowledge here and started having like children's sessions. And so
you just made a really good point. I was going to ask you about, what did you do to skill build? And so, let's talk a little further about that, because I think it's an important topic, because so many moms are fearful of being irrelevant after spending years away from their careers. Maybe they're afraid to step out of their comfort zone, and maybe, you went back to school. I know that I actually went back to school over the pandemic. I think maybe they're afraid of just going back to school to retool their skill set. So talk about what you gained in that and how that helped you to start to really establish, your business.
Well, I know this is like kind of cliche, but if you are doing your passion, you're not really working, right? So I was just very, very, very passionate about photography. And so, I just felt like I needed to learn everything I needed to learn. I mean, I learned how to photograph objects, but I wanted to learn how to photograph like the moving form and basically every kind of lighting situation. This course had like, outside, inside, raining, dark, like flashlight, strobe light, like everything. So it was very intense. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and there was a wide range of people in the class. There were actually some professional photographers in the class that were just trying to brush up on their skills. There were newbies, a whole age range, which was
Mhm.
really nice for me. And yeah, just there are so many, especially in New York, so many schools that will allow like non-students just to come take classes. And so yeah, that's what I did.
But I think that's such an important message to moms. And that is, don't be afraid, right?
Yeah.
Just put yourself into it. And I had a moment when I did it was all online now, when I did my class, sort of to bring my advertising and marketing skills up to the 21st century, that everything's online and there's that technology glitch. And oh my God, my very first project was late. And then there's that panic. And that's, of course, that bad dream that everyone's been having all of those years. But I think it's so important that you just, you jumped off and you did it and you went back to school. And I think you've also proven that you can make money doing something that you're passionate about. So we talked about your master's program, but you had shared with me a really funny story about how you ended up doing your very first wedding. So why don't you share that?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I've been photographing a lot of my friends' kids, and people started to know me as like the children's photographer and really liking my work. And my daughter's preschool teacher got engaged, and she asked me if I would photograph her wedding. And I had never photographed a wedding, but I said, of course, I'd love to. She was
Of
a
course I
great
can do
teacher,
it.
and sure, I can handle this. So yeah, that was a deep dive, let's say. I had a great assistant, and just kind of read everything I could about, what to do, having like all the backup equipment, and
Mhm.
learned kind of on the job. And then from there, I realized that I loved it so much. I decided to call some of the larger studios in Manhattan, and I ended up being like an assistant and then a second shooter for them. And so having that experience, I mean, I would say don't be, just be humble. Like this is a new career. I may have been older than some of the other second shooters, but didn't matter.
That's
Um,
okay.
really enjoying myself. I really learned so much. And yeah, that's where I learned, like, start to finish on the wedding day, it's complete madness, complete passion, and where to be, how to deal with all the personalities, how to deal with timelines, how to deal with like all this
Mhm.
stuff. And then I felt I was ready to like go out on my own and start shooting my own
But
weddings.
really, you learned sort of like trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
You just jumped in. You weren't really, well, you didn't really think you were ready, whatever that means, but you became confident by doing it, right? Sometimes women, I think, might be a little afraid to venture into something because am I really ready? I'm not confident about it, but you gain that confidence by going for it and by just sort of jumping in. And listen, everyone's imperfect, everyone makes mistakes, but that's how you learn, right? You're going to
Yeah.
learn by your mistakes.
I did a lot of photography that way. So like had architects call me and interior designers, and this actually led to like a kind of a big breakthrough, which was I got called to I was doing working with someone in Cuba for the Discovery Channel, and we were kind of discovered there by the Cuban government. And this was when Obama first became president, and he wanted to have like a joint Cuban American kind of artist
Mhm.
collaboration. And so I was commissioned there to photograph the American cars in Cuba with another Cuban photographer. And so I had like my first show,
I
big
saw
show
that
at the
actually.
museum
Yeah.
in Cuba. So that gave me a lot of publicity. And I even had, so a German couple was visiting Cuba, and they saw my works, and then they called me because they want to get married in New York. And I was like, one of my first big weddings in New York was this German couple that found my work in Cuba, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I didn't say no. I just figured I would just like, stay up late and figure out what I'm doing, and then show up on the job and work, twice as hard as anyone else.
Mhm. And there's a lot of value in again what you just said about doing the research, doing your background work, and jumping in and knowing that you are going to be as good as you can be, and that it is going to be absolutely enough, for what they wanted. And over the years, right, you've talked about how over the years you've really refined your eye, because you really have such an extraordinary eye when it comes to photographing weddings and people. You have the ability to really just catch those moments that are so unique. And it goes back to what you said, right? Catching those moments that look how your memories feel. So talk a little about that.
Oh, thank you. So I think my art history background is a huge influence in my work.
Mhm.
I'm always thinking of grand sweeping diagonals and, from my studies in photography in school, like the decisive moment. But I think it's also just what I've learned is like the personalities and the experience. So having the experience of, all the different venues, all the power outages and all the
Mhm.
hurricanes and like all the crazy things that happen on the wedding, all the fun drunk uncles, coupled
There are many
with
of those. Yeah.
yeah, we love them. They make the dance floor fun. And then just coupled with the experience of like knowing where to be or how to anticipate a moment. So I feel like I've just become better at anticipating moments at weddings. Like I can like scan the room and see if like something's going to happen, and then I can be there. So the technique has to be there, the equipment has to be there, everything has to be on, but then you're just trying to see, like, predict when something's going to happen, and then position yourself in a way that you're going to get that moment within the composition of like beautiful geometry and beautiful light, as opposed to like putting myself over here, putting myself over there, or
Right.
just looking for things, just being on my toes. And that's why I love it so much, because you have to constantly be on your toes looking for things, especially when things normally aren't happening, like
Mhm.
after the cake cutting, or like looking at grandma during the ceremony, or just those types of things.
Right. So it sounds very organic, and you really just go with the flow, to go with your creative flow, so to speak, to make it happen. So I want to backtrack just a little. How, when you were really just starting out and the kids were a lot younger, how did you manage your schedule so you could be with the kids? So were you just working on the weekends? How did that look?
Yeah, that was tough. So I I so I scheduled a lot of the children's shoots. I would say, like, for the family shoots, I was catering more towards families with kids like under 4, so I could work while my kids were in school. And then when I really fell in love with weddings, I thought, well, I can actually be home for the kids. I could drive them to their early band practice and be home when they come after school and help them with their homework. If I work on the weekend, and then my husband's here on the weekend, and he can drive them to all their activities. And so yeah, that was kind of the thought, was like, at least like one of us will be here, and I would rather just be away that one day and be able to be here Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
which would be really great. And then yeah, like that. And as they got older, they all I put them all to work. So
They became your assistants.
yeah, so like Terry's really tall, so he knows how to light. My daughter Melanie, I taught her Photoshop. She ran with it, and her Photoshop is better than mine now. So she was doing all my Photoshop and my Instagram. Good with social media, the girls.
Gotta love the kids for doing
Yeah,
all that. Are
yeah.
any of
So,
them following in your footsteps? Or are they going in different directions?
no, so now they're going in different directions, but like when Preston's home, he actually loves helping me on photo shoots, which is really great. Because he loves meeting the people, and it's a fun kind of life affirming experience. And especially, the shoots now are purely like engagement, commercial, or the wedding, but it's always, it's always interesting and kind of just positive and fun. So yeah, he enjoys assisting, and he's a great assistant. So
I love that. I love that. So I know that you have traveled all over the world to shoot weddings. Do you have a favorite place that you have traveled to and shot a wedding?
That's a hard one. Probably India. So I really loved photographing wedding there because it was just so different from anything here. And it was so colorful and just complete madness and craziness and color and dancing. And it was just beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
That must have been an incredible experience. How long ago was that?
That was when the kids were really young. And
Okay.
the couple wanted it on slide film. So I had to shoot
Oh.
because slide film has really deep reds, like really deep saturation reds and oranges. And that's
Mhm.
what, the bride wears, red and gold. And so, yeah, and I'm actually going back. This led to a couple more jobs in India. So I have another job in India in January, and the host will be hosting. He said, your family is welcome to come stay with us during this week-long shoot. And so my kids are excited because they haven't been to India, so they're gonna come with me.
Oh, absolutely. What a treat. They
Yeah.
can watch mom work with the
Mhm.
business that you were developing while you were home with the kids slowly. And this is also, a business that you've developed over like 20 years, right? So this is not something that happened immediately. This is a
No.
long process, I think, as anything anyone wants to do. As you, especially as moms whose kids are starting to get a little older and they're starting to figure out, okay, it's my time now, right? So what do I want to do? But, this is something you can start slowly, like you did. I think that's the beauty, right? Of whatever you're building, you start slowly and you learn from the ground up, just like you did, which your message is invaluable. So I wanted to ask you, let's talk superpowers. So what superpowers, skills, did you gain during your stay-at-home mom years when Melani Lust Photography was really in its infancy? And how did you take that to your next act and to your more?
I think maybe learning how to prioritize my time. like
That's an essential mom skill. Yeah.
yeah, and um like just managing and juggling so many tasks, and setting boundaries and delegating. Like with my kids, like Preston was helping with accounting, Melanie with the Photoshop, Terry with the
Right.
assisting, and also
Classic mom multitasker, I might
yeah.
add.
Yeah, just setting aside time. I'm going to exercise these 3 days a week, no matter what, that type of thing. And realizing that, and this is a really hard lesson, that you can't be perfect. Oh, that was hard. Yeah. Yeah. So some things are going to have to
But
be.
isn't that nice to realize that perfection doesn't really exist and that whatever we do is okay and it's good enough. And oftentimes it is exceptional. So I love that thought that you just said.
That's hard. And also like for the business, like delegating things to other people. So like I have someone who does my newsletters, I have someone that works on the albums, someone that maintains my site, the bookkeeper, an accountant, and I was doing all that by myself before and going crazy. And
Oh my God, that's a lot of work. Yeah.
Right. Just a lot of delegation and not cooking dinner every night.
I can appreciate that. I love not to cook dinner every night. So Melanie, given that this is the Mom to More podcast, what is your more?
Like, I guess, so this was a tough one because, when you're raising kids, it's so rewarding, like they're your more, right? Every single
100%.
day is like, you see their accomplishments and you feel so proud of them and you're a part of that. And they come to you with, their celebrations and their troubles. And you just, each day is like, you just feel so much and you feel so rewarded. So when they left, it was very hard. And so then it was like, oh gosh, I have to discover like what is important to me and what I love to do. And I'm fortunate that I really, really love wedding photography, but I needed more. So I started
working more to your more. Okay.
Yeah. I started working more like in two things that are really passionate, that I've always been passionate about since I was young, growing up in San Diego. right near the canyon, which is like the environment and habitat destruction. So, I go around, I created a fine art site, and I started, shooting a lot of like landscapes, wild animals. I went to Tanzania, and incorporating, I think my voice is like the mathematics of nature, which kind of leads me back to my original major of mathematics. So as I work more in weddings and I'm able to earn more money, I can work more in these causes that really mean the world to me, and hopefully start to shift more into that direction.
Well, I love that, because now there's the philanthropic side of you, which you are now able to, as the years go on, give more time to. And I know for a lot of us, philanthropy is so important. And oftentimes when the kids are younger, obviously you bring the kids with you, right? Any philanthropy that you're doing, but how nice to be able to have the luxury, because the kids are out of the house now, and you have your business and you can make the time for more things that really resonate with you and with your heart. And I think that's really important, because, as a mom who may want to be starting a business, there always has to be that human side of it, right? You're doing it because you love it. You've gone back to a career because you missed it. You created a new path because you discovered something new about yourself while you were home with the kids, and you realized, wow, I have that talent and I can really move forward with that. So I love that you are giving back. And because that's something that really resonates with most people in their heart, right? The philanthropy side of it. So I applaud you for that. I think that's wonderful. So Melani, is there any other mom inspo you would like to offer, to moms whose kids are getting a little older, and they might want to be thinking, okay, what am I going to do when my kids grow up?
Oh gosh, I'll get emotional. So, my daughter said something to me about 6 months ago that kind of surprised me. And she said, Mom, it was such a good example to see you working when I was growing up. And I couldn't imagine having a mom who didn't work. And looking back on it, she says, I'm really, really proud of you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So yeah, so that's my inspiration.
That is beautiful.
Watching.
They're always watching. But also what's interesting is the way you manage your time. Yes, you were working, but you were there for them. You were raising your own kids. And I think that's really, really important, because a lot of women struggle with that. It's like they want to be there for their kids, but there can be ways when, like you just, your example today of how you can create your more, and slowly as they got older, you were able to take on more of that, right? More of the photography, more weddings. So I think that's a beautiful example. Thank you for that. So Melani, where can we find you online? And we will also include these show notes, in the show notes, but tell us where we find you online, your website, all of that information.
Thank you. It's melanilustphotography.com. It's MELANI LUST. Instagram is Melani Lust Photography. Okay. Facebook, Melani Lust Photography. So
pretty easy to remember. Well, this has been so wonderful, and I really appreciate your time, and thank you for this. And I hope that the moms listening are going to find it as inspiring as I have. And I really appreciate your time. So thank you, Melani. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
And
you're inspiring. So
you're very sweet. Thank you.
Hey, I'd like to give a special shout out to Lainey 3968. She left me a lovely 5-star review, and here's what she said. Very real, very relatable. Disclaimer, I don't have kids yet, but I think most women worry about balancing their careers and motherhood long before it's a reality. I liked hearing these women say how much motherhood prepared them for their careers instead of seeing it as an obstacle. Relatable and very honest.
If this podcast means something to you, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take 30 seconds to do some or all of the following. First, can you please follow or subscribe to the Mom to More podcast? Following the pod means you'll never miss an episode. To do this, just go to the Mom to More show page on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen in and tap the plus sign in the upper right corner or click on follow. This is the most important thing for the pod. While you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star rating and review and share an episode with another mom, we'd be most grateful and appreciate your support. Thanks for listening in, and we'll see you next time.